colours, as we can see throughout the day, draped in black. Under the Corps of the Royal Marines, and this is part of the Tri-Service Guard of Honour that will form up in Parliament Square. The Royal Navy with the King's Colour of the Fleet, and soldiers from Nijmegen Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards with the King's Colour, and the Royal Air Force with the King's Colour. So the Tri-Service Guard of Honour, and they'll be marching off fairly soon to take up their positions on the eastern side of Parliament Square, ready for the procession when it arrives from Whitehall and makes its way to Westminster Hall. So over at the Palace of Westminster, which is bathed in sunshine this afternoon, very nice contrast to yesterday. There we have the Elizabeth Tower, named in memory, of course, of Her Majesty, and the great bell of Big Ben, which will be tolling every minute during the procession itself today. And Westminster Hall there, just in the shadows on the right-hand side, the oldest part of the Palace of Westminster. And my colleague Petrok Trelawney is there.
Yes, the Elizabeth Tower, renamed for Queen Elizabeth II to mark her Diamond Jubilee 10 years ago. The clock face of Big Ben, the newly restored clock face of Big Ben, its rich gilding glowing in this glorious afternoon sunshine, setting off perfectly with the blue skies above London. At the exact moment that the procession bearing Her late Majesty's coffin sets off from Buckingham Palace, a bell here will start to toll, and it will ring out every minute until the cortege arrives at the Palace of Westminster. Westminster Hall itself, nearly 1,000 years old. For much of yesterday it was filled with soldiers, choristers, heralds, parliamentary officials and members of corps of royal bodyguards established under Tudor monarchs, all preparing in minute detail for this moment. The Queen's mother and father both lay in state here inside these walls, and soon her coffin will rest on a catafalque draped in purple cloth.
Where will she be buried?
This is a highly symbolic
In Windsor.
occasion, the moment that the coffin
Her
becomes
home.
the responsibility of the Earl Marshal,
With her
passes
husband.
the care of the royal household to the state. After the procession arrives here, there will be a short service led by the Archbishop of Canterbury and sung by the choirs of the Chapel Royal at
Archie.
Westminster Abbey. Then the first vigil will be mounted by the household cavalry, gentlemen at arms and the yeomen of the guard. The first of 20 watches, each one lasting 6 hours. Watches that will run continuously until Monday morning. And the coffin will be carried across Parliament Square to Westminster Abbey for the funeral service. And this afternoon, once the royal party has left, well, the hall will close briefly and will then reopen its doors again, allowing the public the chance to file past the coffin and pay their final respects.
And now the King's Troop of the Royal Horse Artillery are deploying in Hyde Park, from where they will fire the minute guns. Every minute, to remember, to draw the capital to attention. And here at Wellington Barracks, soldiers, sailors and airmen of the Tri-Service Guard of Honour now depart from Parliament Square.
Good comfortable shoes.
band of the Royal Marines, led by Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bircham, Principal Director of Music of the Royal Marines. These soldiers, sailors and airmen will not be part of the formal funeral cortege because they are going ahead to Parliament Square. They will be ready in position to receive the cortege when it arrives. This reminds us, of course, that beyond her relationship with the troops of the Household Division, the Queen was Commander-in-Chief of the entire armed forces.
It's tricky.
So to the rousing music being played by the Royal Marine Band, we are in a position to see just the corner there of Horse Guards Avenue and Birdcage Walk as the Tri-Service Guard of Honour makes its way to Parliament Square. They will be providing the King's Guard in Parliament Square, ready for the procession when it arrives at the Palace of Westminster. And as we look at these images, and as we see all the expectant faces in the crowds, all along the Mall, and the crowd swelling with every minute. My guests are still with me, Sir Ken Elisa and Sally Osman. And as we look at this, Sally, and everyone here in the crowd, of course, acutely aware that it's been a great burden placed on the King's shoulders now, but after a very long apprenticeship, a record period as Prince of Wales, he's now King Charles III. Lots of people very impressed with the way that he's stepped up and the eloquence with which he's spoken in recent days. How does the palace, because you will know this better than anyone, how does the palace manage that transition and all the different things that the king may well want to do, the different ways in which he may want to operate? How is that being managed?
Well, it's interesting, you know, that the Queen on his 70th birthday made a very nice speech calling him the Duchy original, but he's very much his own man. And he will be his own man. But as we've seen over the last few days, the machinery of monarchy keeps ticking, and he will pick up those duties. I wouldn't call it a burden necessarily. It's a different kind of duty. He spent his entire life too, serving people, being dutiful, etc. And this is just a different way of doing it now, in terms of now holding the role of monarch.
Well, we're just looking at the crowds, and of course this is an interesting sight, Sally. Look at this. These are the staff of Clarence House who've turned out for this procession today. And Clarence House, of course, a home which has had, again, strong links with the late Queen and with the late Duke of Edinburgh, and indeed Prince Charles.
And indeed the Queen Mother as well. It's very different, and I'm not quite sure what the practicalities will be in terms of who stays where, but these people have worked with the King for many years, and there'll be a lot of affection there, as there will be for all the people in Buckingham Palace who've worked with the Queen so closely. Who'll be really feeling this very keenly.
It's one thing that we've maybe not reflected enough on, to be honest, which is to do with the kind of impact this will have had on staff who've had, in some cases, a lifelong record of service to the Queen. Some of them surely will stay on, but some clearly will maybe feel that as the Queen has left us, it's maybe time for them too to move on. It's a difficult time.
It's a difficult time, and I'm sure those decisions will be being made. The people I keep thinking about are the ladies in waiting, actually, who've been such a constant in the Queen's life, alongside her personal pages, alongside Angela Kelly, who is obviously the Queen's dresser and personal assistant. You know, these people who have lived with her and have seen the private side of the Queen as much as the public side. You know, they will be feeling, but everybody will. Anybody who's been involved in the household at any time is feeling this quite personally.
We talk about the public side there, Sir Ken, and of course, as Lord Lieutenant of London, of all places, you will have had your regular contact. You will know exactly what this relationship is about.